Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature successful business leaders, top law firms, green energy companies, and more. Today, we're joined by the president and co-founder of Spinutech and the host of the Growth Fire podcast, Kevin Hourigan. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matthew. Great to be here.
All right. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Cyberlinks is a complete technology solution provider that ensures your business not only has the most reliable and professional IT service, but also has the right cybersecurity solutions to ensure your business stays productive and safe. You can learn more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Kevin, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, Matthew, happy with Thursday.
Same to you. Now, Spinutech's a leading digital marketing agency. For those not familiar with Spinutech, can you give us the elevator pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. So Spinutech is a digital advertising agency. We like to describe ourselves as an end-to-end digital agency. And what we mean by that is we often become the only partner our clients need to manage all of their digital advertising. And end-to-end, the front end of digital advertising starts with having the right strategy in place and designing and developing the right web presence. And once that web presence is launched and managed and maintained, the end starts to trail into how the websites can be marketed. And so at Spinutech, we have the right strategy in place to design and develop the right website, understanding who the key stakeholders are, key buyers are, ideal customer profiles, making sure we have content and navigation that supports that buyer's journey. And once that website is launched and published, we have a complete team who helps do all the marketing for that. That's organic search engine optimization, that's managing paid search, organic social media, paid social media, that's ongoing email marketing and CRM management. But ultimately, we help our clients attract new customers, retain and grow existing clients, and improve their overall growth of their revenues, earnings, and client satisfaction. And so often our journey starts with our clients. They either need help with the website or they need help with the digital advertising. But typically, once you fix one area or help them improve one area of their digital advertising, it then exposes the other area has a weakness. And so typically, the start of our relationship is helping them generate more leads through digital marketing and finding out the website has an opportunity to perform better, or they know their website's old and outdated and get that launched. But just launching a new website doesn't mean new traffic and new targeted clients are going to come. It takes a complement of a marketing. And so that's what we do. We help our clients grow through making sure they have the right web presence and the right marketing initiatives in place. And my partner Mark always jokes, we're a data agency disguised. We're a data company disguised as a digital advertising agency. And so very data driven, helping our clients understand what the right key performance indicators are and having a strategy that complements that, measures against it, and help them grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what would you say your target audience is, your ideal clients?
Yeah, so our ideal client, so often in business, like, hey, what's your niche? What's your niche? Our niche isn't necessarily vertical focused. Our niche is being a digital expert horizontally across many industry verticals. And it's intentional for a couple of different reasons. And that niche, that horizontal niche, would probably be the middle market size businesses. I'd say 100 million to $1 billion in revenue. And there's going to be companies that are way larger than $1 billion in revenue. There's going to be some that are going to be smaller too. But who we target would be that middle market size, 100 million to $1 billion in revenue. And that would, again, be across many different verticals. And why not have vertical focus? In our industry, being a digital advertising agency, we're helping our clients attract new customers. When you go vertical depth, there's a risk out there, a likely risk, that at some point, as you're doing a great job for the companies you're serving, others in that vertical, their competitors, are going to want you to work for them too. And that can be a conflict of interest to be working for one brand to help it grow when their competitors are asking you to do the same thing for them. And it completely makes sense. So vertical depth for an agency, it restricts growth for the agency. Secondarily, there's so much to learn in other verticals that an existing vertical isn't using from an advertising perspective. And by learning in different verticals, the knowledge that you gain can be transferred into another vertical without it being a risk of violating any confidentiality. And we learn all too often our clients, their choice of their digital advertising partner is going to be someone who's vertically deep in that niche, knowing they speak that language very well, but risking they may be working for a competitor and risking some confidential information may be shared. But we learn so often that when we do earn an opportunity for someone who is comparing us to a vertical depth agency, the feedback often is using vertical depth agencies in the past, they never brought us the ideas you're bringing us to the table because they didn't have the exposure to the experience that you have. And so, our target market, again, middle market, we want to be their digital expert horizontally across many verticals. So it doesn't run the risk that we have a competitive threat to our clients, which absolutely makes sense. And to be able to experience the knowledge gain in other markets that we wouldn't be able to experience in just one vertical.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, the reality is you can't, I mean, imagine if you did that just in one city, you'd get one client, right? You don't want to be doing the same thing for their local competitors. It makes no sense. And then to be able to bring in all this expertise from other industries, I mean, you basically the same thing that the large consulting firms do. I mean, their value is really in that they help so many in so many different areas, that they bring knowledge that, oh, I wouldn't have thought about that from inside our industry. It makes perfect sense.
And Matthew, you're in technology. I'm in technology. I've been doing this for 26 years. But one of the famous phrases I've coined, especially in technology and in marketing, is it's not what people know that concerns me. It's what people don't know that concerns me. And, we have a team of 165 people, which is very large for digital advertising agency.
Yeah.
I think there's a statistic in the United States that only 4% of agencies in the United States get beyond 50 people. So the amount of knowledge we gain with a team of 165 is significantly different than the majority of agencies in the United States. So that there's an old saying, knowledge is power, right? So we're gaining a lot of knowledge going to all these different verticals. And again, it's not competitive information or confidential information that's at risk of being shared. It's in different verticals, and all of that just makes our team more knowledgeable and able to share that knowledge with our clients and not have it be a competitive threat. Seems to be part of the secret formula that our clients value.
Well, I got to ask, since you brought up 160 people, I mean, to get to that point, I mean, that is no small feat. So I'd like to kind of rewind, if we could, to the founding. If I love founding stories. So if you could share the story of how you got started, because I'd love to understand how you go from, hey, I got this great idea, or however that started, all the way to 160. Because like you said, not many people can do that. So I'd love, if you don't mind sharing the secret sauce, or at least the story, would love to hear it.
Sure. So there'll be a riddle at the end. But Matthew, I started my career in the same industry you are. It just wasn't managed services through the cloud and things of that today. But I was IT integrator in my first career. I went into local businesses back when servers were in a closet in someone's office and not in the cloud. But that's where I started. And back 26, 27 years ago, I had an engineer who asked if he could build our company's website. This is in 1995 when most companies didn't have a website. And I started to say no, but I could tell by his body language he wanted a different answer. And so he said, I'll do it on my own time. And he built our website. He was proud of it. It didn't hurt me. But when he was done, he said, do you mind if I ask our clients if we could build one for them too? I'm like, that's not what we do. I can see again, he didn't want the answer to be no. I said, so what would you do for them and what would you charge? And he said, well, I built them a 3-page website. I charge $500. I said, okay, well, how long would it take you to build that 3-page website? He said, 3 hours. Quickly do that. I'm like, that's more of a rate per hour than I'm charging you to be a Novell engineer out in the field. Right. I'm like, no hard sell. You're like, you can ask, but and so I always joke, he went to 100 clients and 99 of them said, what is a website? Or we'll never need one of those. But 6 months later, people started saying, hey, John was at our office a few months back and he was talking about this website thing. And we told him we'll never need one, but actually we'd like to talk to him again. And so that's what started the company. That's back in 1996. Fast forward to where we are today. I'm a voracious learner. I have an appetite to learn and get better every day. And one of the ways I've done so is being in CEO peer groups. And I met an owner of another digital agency who was very, very similar to mine. And 2.5 years ago, we merged our two companies together. And the two companies together built a team of 165 people. And why did we merge? We wanted to be the best end-to-end digital company you could have. And we were attempting to be that, but it's a company of half the size. And it's hard to be the best end-to-end digital company because the pressure of digital continues to get broader. the need for skills continues to get deeper. You can only be so good at end-to-end digital with a team of 75 people, 65 people, 85 people. You can only be so good. You can be aspirationally great at some, but really you aren't great. My partner's company was stronger on the digital marketing side, and my company was stronger on the web side. And together we decided we'd be better to go to market for our clients to be an end-to-end agency, being able to be really strong on the web and the marketing side. My customers got better opportunities to have more marketing services than what my company could offer. And his company had an opportunity to bring to their clients different web solutions that they didn't offer. And so for our clients, we were able to give them more choices that would be a better fit for them than just the ones that we were limited to with the team we had at the time. For our coworkers, we were able to create a career path that each company independently couldn't offer because now we had such a diverse level of skill sets. And so it gave an opportunity for our coworkers to have just an amazing new journey for their career that neither one could offer independently. And then for our company, we felt if we are bringing better solutions for our customers or bringing better career paths for our coworkers, it can't harm our company. And so how do we get to 165? It's merging two companies together, but both companies were already far beyond the 50-point headcount. And part of it's time. Both of us have been in business for more than 20 years. Both of us were able to, have amazing teams who were able to do amazing work and be able to grow a business from a lot of repetitive business from existing clients, a lot of referral from existing clients, and a lot of partnerships that fostered new opportunity.
Well, let me ask you. So a lot of people say those first hires and still after that are really crucial and kind of critical, to your business. Would you say that's true, or would you say that it was, the kind of the key to success going from that, it's you doing your IT, company. You've got is it just you and one engineer at the time? And,
we had a team we had probably had about 20 people at the time. But the interesting thing is 6 months into the digital journey, we decided to shut down the managed services side of our business. And it was, I was at a meeting last night for another business, and they were telling this business owner to abandon their current business model and go niche into this one. And if they did, there was a quote unquote, a huge pot of gold, but had to abandon where they were at. And that's the most fearful thing that any business owner wants to hear is abandon what's been your bread and butter for 20 years and go over here where there's a pot of gold that you're told exists, but you can't see it, smell it, or taste it. And that's what my company did is we had 20 engineers, managing our clients, but felt there was a threat to where that model was going. And certainly you've taken advantage of what it was, but there was a paradigm shift in going to what we were doing into what we would have had to go do. And there's a paradigm shift to switching the business model, but we chose to intentionally make a shift and go pure digital. There's an old saying, niche and get rich. It's scary to go niche. It's very scary because you're giving up your bread and butter. In my journey, abandoning the managed services side of things was a difficult decision to make, especially into the digital sector, which really didn't have any track record yet. But it was a gamble that was the wave of the future, so to speak, and that gamble paid off.
Wow. Okay, that's really cool. Not to go too far down it, but I'd love if you could share a little bit more, if it's okay. I'm curious the conversation you had last night. What was the industry kind of niche, and what are they looking to? Just because those are huge jumps. I mean, that's scary stuff.
So I'm probably blushing because this is gonna be an embarrassing story that's about to come out of my mouth, Matthew. But I think in my journey of being able to be a partner in a digital agency of 165 people, I didn't get here because I was the smartest person. I didn't get here because I was an amazing digital advertising or web developer. I got here because I was inspired by others who helped me see beyond what my own vision could and gave me inspiration to pursue things that if I was just left to my own mind, I would have never gotten here. And I think in my journey, I'm so thankful I had people out there who told me that the North Star was way brighter, way bigger, but way farther away, but told me to trust in the journey. And in that, I feel like you have to reciprocate those opportunities backward, right? And so, I enjoy sharing my experiences to others who are looking for someone to be able to learn from or grow from. And so, where I get my haircut, the lady who owns the salon where I get my haircut,
Nice.
she's been cutting my hair for 20 years. I just got it cut last night. Um, she has an opportunity to expand her salon. She's had her salon for 20 years. She cuts hair. She cuts men's hair, and she has a stylist who does ladies' hair and colors. But she has a vision of diversifying that business model and adding in hair extensions, not for guys, for girls, obviously.
Mhm.
But I learned this last night. A woman who has hair extensions is making a $7,000 a year commitment to have hair extensions. $7,000 a year. What does a normal woman or man spend at a hair salon annually? My haircut's $25, and it's, I don't know, $300 a year.
Yep.
It's more than $300 to sit in the chair every 6 weeks to have hair extensions. But
Wow.
so there's a pot of gold there. The pot of gold. I probably spend $300 a year at a hair salon. This is $7,000. But there's only 4 chairs in the salon. Who do you want sitting in the chair?
That's right.
$25 haircut or a $7,000 customer? And so, that was the example last evening.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. That's no, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, at least, dedicate part of the store just to that, and then, bridge, get rid of you don't want to lose your barber, of course, but hey, you'd love to see her just do great things. So I feel you.
And why not? Fear.
Yeah.
And I think early in my career, someone said, when you make decisions often on emotion, and it's either you're mad, you're sad, you're scared, or you're glad. In many of those emotions, you're going to make the wrong decision. If you're sad and make a decision, you're probably not making the best decision. If you're scared and you're making a decision, you're probably not making the best decision. If you're mad and you're making a decision, you're probably not making the best decision. But if you can be glad and make a decision, you've probably thought through, as long as you're not opportunistically and unrealistically glad, if you get to the point where you're glad because you feel like you've vetted out what needs to be vetted out, and you're not making it because you're scared and desperate. You're not making it because you're mad and frustrated. You're not making it because you're sad. You can often make good decisions. And so why wouldn't you make that decision that seems like there's a pot of gold? Because you're scared.
It's funny because I think you're spot on with the decisions. I think that, interestingly, though, I think that everybody makes all their decisions based off of emotion, and then they justify it with the logic. And
Right.
those scared, or let's just go with scared. You're scared. It's really, the emotion is just telling you there's something you don't know, and you need to figure that out. Once you figure out those things, then you'll be glad and you'll
Correct.
make the right decision. So
Correct.
you got there the same way, and I love that.
Yes.
Because I feel the exact same way, and all too often people just don't think through it enough and really analyze it to be able to get through the scared or the mad or the whatever it might be to get to glad, which is then, yep, that's your green light, right? So
Green light. And it's interesting, Matthew, to watch. I've got 2 young adult boys, and it's interesting to, following up your phrase, people make decisions with emotion and then try to support it with logic afterwards. And whether it's watching my boys or maybe some of the coworkers that I share day-to-day experiences with, it's interesting sometimes to watch emotion make the decision and then search for the logic underneath it to support it. And
yeah,
I can smile at it because I'm sure I'm guilty of it every day myself. But it's interesting to be able to watch others' journeys and to make a quick emotional decision, then seek for logic to help support it and stuff of that nature. And so I can smile now because I didn't see that earlier in my career, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it as anybody else. But it is fascinating to watch sometimes.
that's great. Well, earlier in your career, you saw that digital was going to be the transition. That was the future. I think everybody now is seeing AI as the future. So let me ask you, where do you see AI coming in the digital marketing world? How do you see that playing a part?
Yeah, I think it's going to. So we're experiencing AI in our business today, and we don't see it as that's. I think initially the knee-jerk reaction was scared, right? That this is going to take our job, right? I think we're in a state of glad now. We're going to probably beat this horse to death today, but I think we're in a state of glad today because AI can be an amazing companion to help our team be able to leverage it to help our clients or our teammates be able to get to an outcome faster, less expensively, more creatively, to get to an outcome differently than we have in the past. And so some areas where we may be testing it. So a significant amount of what we do is strategy that turns into copywriting. We're not we're not going into there and saying, write this article or write this blog. But if we have writer's block, it may take hours to cure writer's block. AI can help cure writer's block really quickly. And so that can help us be more efficient, more effective, and spend more time executing the deliverable than being stuck in writer's block. So we see it complementing there. There's some aspects of software development where AI can do some quality assurance or code review. We're not asking AI to write code, but we may be asking AI to test code and things of that nature. And so I think, again, when change happens, fear is a fast emotion that comes. So, yes, fear is a fast emotion that can come. But when you have a chance to process things and put fear to the side and be able to logically visit things, fear may still reside, or opportunity may be what knocks on the door. And we've seen AI to be an opportunity, and I think we've just scratched the surface of what that opportunity can be.
Yeah, it's funny. So I don't know if you know the story about refrigerators, right? When refrigeration came around, that was great and whatnot. But the people who came up with refrigeration, they made a lot of money,
Right.
but it was really the people who did more with it, like Coca-Cola. They really used refrigeration to expand their business and become a brand. And
Yes.
I think AI is going to be much like that, where it's going to be people like you, where you integrate AI into things beyond just using the chat GPT for, hey, ideas. I think
Right.
it's going to be those products and services where it really, kind of gets into not necessarily a niche, but really leverages it to do a certain thing, whether it's, building a web, let's say SEO, for instance, right?
Right.
Currently, you can't go to chat GTP and say, hey, can you give me some advice? They can give you some general advice on your SEO, but won't dig into your site and be like, oh, we got to fix this,
Right.
fix that. I
Right.
mean, I think when you're leveraging that internally and you can say, hey, look, and it goes through and just, that's some powerful stuff that you'll be able to turn on for a client and, fix their website SEO, at least, some of the basic stuff that might take hours and hours and hours to go through if they've got even a small site, right? Let
Right.
alone a very large site with lots of problems. It'd be really cool to have a tool that just goes in and, bam, 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 bam. Here you go.
Absolutely.
AI
Absolutely.
it.
And so ChatGPT obviously has been AI overflow in the media and stuff like that, and where I think a lot of us today are getting. I think a lot of mainstream America is getting their first real life example of where AI might exist. But quite frankly, AI has been our best friend from a digital advertising perspective and our client's best friend for a long time, and just helping managing effectively media spend and targeting
Good
and things
point.
of that nature. And so, the cost of media isn't getting any less these days. The opportunity of leveraging AI to make that expensive media more effective has been in place for a long period of time. And so, artificial intelligence has been around for a while. We've been using it. It's been a little bit somewhat behind the scenes to some degree to some people's visibility. I think we're just becoming more and more aware of it as we've seen these cool things that the ChatGPT and things of that nature have been brought to the table. But obviously, it's been around for a while in different taste points, and we know also, and we know it's been out there because certainly as we spend time online and we've been browsing a particular website, and then that website's haunting us. I mean, following us around the internet for a while.
Yeah.
We leverage okay, so I got to be cautious where I'm browsing because that sports store is continuing to follow me on a pair of snow skis I was considering buying or whatever it might be. And so that's been artificial intelligence working for years, and we knew it behind the scenes. I can't tell you how many coffee conversations or cocktail conversations people I was at home and I was talking, and I think Alexa overheard me talking about buying a new golf club because I went on to MSN that day and that same golf club appeared on my advertising. And so, we've been talking about it over coffee for, a year or so. And But certainly ChatGPT has really brought an awareness over and above what I think we've been talking about for a long time.
Yeah, that's great. So, okay, so we've hit AI. Now, I'm really curious because you have 160, ish employees. This whole, in office versus remote stuff. I mean, you guys are in multiple locations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So pre-COVID, 5 offices. Once COVID happened, we told when COVID first originally went down, mandatory, can't go into the offices. Many of the communities we were in, Denver, Chicago, I'm in Tampa, it was mandatory. You couldn't come into the office. At some point, different restrictions in different communities starting to lighten up. In our Tampa office, I think I'm in a 12-story office tower here in Tampa. I think the building was locked down for 3 weeks. Eventually, it opened up. I recall in our Chicago office and our Denver office, those communities said that if you weren't from the same household, only so many people could be in the square footage from different households. And so there's no way our team could go back into the office because it was, probably only 20% of the team could go into those offices because those communities restricted people not from the same household being in the same space. And so here we are, back now we're in 2023, and we are what we call an optional to go back to the office. I'm in my Tampa office today. I'm going to imagine there's probably about 45 people in the Tampa marketplace, but I would guess I'll probably see 5 or 6 of my teammates here today. And so I would say probably on any given day of 165 team members, we probably have around 25 going into the office. A lot of those would be, using the 80-20 rule, maybe 80% of those are the same people because they choose to work in the office for whatever their choices may be. And 20% may be a variety of wanting to go in to get a team exposure, wanting to go in because maybe of a meeting, wanting to go in to maybe just get out of the house, whatever it might be. But also in this, COVID world, we've gone from, 5 offices in 4 states to now having, team members in 28 states. And so, the message of, hey, everybody, guess what? We're going back to work. That doesn't fit everybody because everybody isn't in a geographic region to be able to go back to work. And so, there's areas of that. There's a pro and a con to everything about going back to work or staying remote. And, at any given day, you can support one side of the logic of it'd be better to go back to work, to support the logic, it'd be better to stay remote. But being as distributed across 28 states as we are today, that's a problem that's harder to solve than some of the facts or opinions about whether it's better to go back or not. It's going to be a difficult message for us to determine how to go back to work when we're in 28 states with offices only in 4.
right. And I think, in your particular case, do you find it, I would think that collaborating in 28 states is perfectly fine. I mean, it'd be one thing if you had one office, everybody was in there. Again, there are, advantages and disadvantages to everybody being in there. There's a lot of extra, talking. There's a lot of extra everything that goes along with it. But is it, are you finding that you have all the collaboration tools you need? People are very productive, in 28 states. And so it's like, do we need it? The offices?
It's Matthew, it's such a good question. And I think that there's probably fact and then there's probably opinion that can answer that question. Do we have the tools? I believe we have the tools. We have, Slack, we have Zoom, we have all these different tools. What I think we haven't figured out and how to use those tools to the maximum they could help us is in my early career, I used to go to the work at 7:00 every morning. And my goal was to be at work at 7:00 every morning because my boss went in at 7:00 every morning. And I got to say good morning to my boss before anybody else did every morning. And I went in on my day off. I had one day off. I went in at 7:00 every morning on my day off to turn in my weekly report. And I saw my boss, even on my day off, every morning at 7 a.m. I turned in my report, spent about 20 minutes in the office. It was a half mile from my house, so it was convenient. But my boss saw me every day. I believe that was a differentiation on how I got to climb the career ladder differently than all my other peers who started at the same onboarding class than I did. I think in this remote world today, some of that interaction doesn't take place. And the stars of the world, don't have the same exposure to their leaders as they had before. And so there's a way that could be fostered, but that happened more inorganically than it would today. And it was intentional on my part. I was intentionally doing that. And I got a lot of time with my boss that nobody else did. And he recognized the commitment I was making. And guess what? He tapped me on the shoulder. Hey, Kevin, I want you to come in this meeting with me. Hey, Kevin, I want you to do this. And I set a record for career growth in that career faster than anybody else they'd ever had in that before. But I believe it was because I intentionally did things differently than everybody else did. And my boss had exposure to it. I could have teammates today who are making those same commitments that the exposure is not there. And so those tools could potentially foster it, but I don't know if they're exposing that. You talk about, in office, there's a lot more chatter and all kinds of stuff going on. And certainly I have a judgment that is true, and that could be considered a downside. But here's where I see there's a potential loss of upside to that. That chatter may be, hey, Matt, what are you doing for lunch? You have lunch plans today? No, I didn't. Hey, you want to go you want to go to Chipotle for lunch today? Yeah, sure. Let's go to lunch. Matt, I promise you, if you and I were to go to lunch today as coworkers to Chipotle at lunch today, we would talk about work. Yeah. You might talk about, I just got this crappy assignment. I don't know why they're giving it to me. I don't know how to do this. And I'd be like, yeah, that sucks. But you know what? I got that before too. And here's how I solved it. And so we may be belly aching about work, but at the same point, we're learning. Yeah. We're growing. And so those conversations at the water cooler, while at some point they'd be like, oh, the water cooler, what's festering at the water cooler? The pro side of that, what's also festering at the water cooler is people are having exposure to issues or problems that they're also being aware of how they got solved, and they're growing in their knowledge as a result of that. And so, we have platforms today that allow that to be fostered, but I don't know if we have the circumstances and where that organically fostered in the way we're doing it today.
That's a really good point. I mean, I could see, going back to, to people, let's go back to your story, right? Where you got in the office every day at 7, you thought differently, you found a unique way of kind of gaming the system to your advantage. And I think there are plenty of opportunities now with new technology. Most people will do the norm and they will stay with their herd, that they were onboarded with, and they'll progress normally. Right. Those that find the advantages in the system and take, and create they thought creatively, they came up with creative solutions. I think the same applies now. But what you point out is I think brilliant that you often don't hear is that those opportunities, like the lunch, like the griping at the cooler, where you're learning these things. I don't know of any. You're right. The system's just not there. You're going to get off the Zoom and then just you'll bitch to whoever's around you, your kids, your wife, your whatever, right. And there's no learning that's going on. It may be therapeutic. Yes. Cathartic, but it is not, you're not learning from somebody else's experience in your business. So that's a really good point.
Well, and I think today too, we may have a 30-minute Zoom call with the intent of educating and sharing experience, all that stuff. And it may finish in 15 minutes and we hang up. If we're in a meeting room, we may not hang up, right? We may talk about the weather. We may talk about, who's going to go to the Super Bowl this year, whatever it might be. But there's going to be some sprinkled in knowledge share too. And Matthew, I think, I always wanted to, there's an old saying, you are who you hang with. I always wanted to surround myself with the people who knew the most, right? So I went in at 7:00 in the morning because my boss knew more than anybody else. And I got an opportunity to just have 5 minutes with that person in the morning, and I got to learn from all of that. And so, in a Zoom call today, when you hang up, the communication's done. You're in a conference room, and you might not have just hung up. You might have just hung out. And the difference between hanging up, and hanging out, there's a gap there that potentially we're not maximizing the opportunity to learn from each other.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the future is more hybrid, and those people who care about their career advancement, will want to spend more time in the office around people. They'll grow, they'll be groomed more. They'll have those opportunities. They'll learn more. But if it doesn't fit your life goals, that's fine. If what you're really looking for is that, stay at home, work from home, work is fine. Well, then you can have that. I think That's
And I'd say, but I'll say, here's how we're trying. So we have the tools. We've lost the environment, but here's some of the things we're trying to do to counteract it. We have a young lady in our office who's focused purely on culture. Her entire role is to help foster the culture of Spinutech. Intentionally, she's created an amazing number of channels and venues to interact online, and it may be around interests outside of work. It may be around doing yoga, meditation, family, pets. The gamut, it runs very long. There's just weekly or multiple times weekly, just informal get-togethers. And when COVID first happened, it's like, oh, let's do the virtual happy hour at 5:00. Like that wore out within 90 days, right? But the intent was to get people together, right? So nowadays, this young lady in our organization, Rachel, she's amazing, and she is trying to foster intentionally ways to use the platforms and tools we have to get that interaction with a focus of why to get together, but probably a little bit of let it free flow once it does get together. And so we are counterbalancing the lack of interaction physically face to face with intentional ways of optionally being able to join areas of interest that you may have and be able to interact with team members that you may never have a chance to spend much time with face to face. And so, we are seeing gains in leveraging those types of exercises to counterbalance what we lose from the accidental interchanges that took place at the water cooler, so to speak.
That's cool. And how long have you guys been? How long have you been doing that?
So this is actually something that was a pre-COVID initiative to have someone focus strictly on culture. It's just adjusted to what it's adjusted to post-pandemic reality of what to do using post-pandemic situations. But it's something intentional that we had pre-pandemic. It's just the vision of what that was to what it's become today has changed. And so we are very intentionally trying to foster the best culture we can. And part of fostering the best culture is getting better at what you do every day by learning from your teammates.
I love it. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on. But before we go, can you tell people where they can find out more about you and Spinutech?
Yeah, absolutely. So Matthew, thank you for the time today. My name is Kevin Hourigan. Kevin at spinutech.com. Spin, the letter U, TECH.com would be email. My LinkedIn is Kevin Hourigan. You can find me there. I'd love to interact with you, answer any questions. But love anybody. If you want to connect later, be happy to chat with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Kevin. It was great having you on.
Matthew, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.